Welcome to Life Mastery Radio with Todd Allen and Jackie Bailey, the show that dives into the science of higher consciousness with inspiring topics such as abundance, intention, health, manifestation, love, and transformation. Join Todd, Jackie, and their guests of leading authors, speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific. Learn to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery. It's all right here with stories and messages to support your well-being and most evocative dreams. Now, here's your hosts, Todd and Jackie.
2, 1. Hey, it's another groovy day. And guess what? It's the grooviest because today is Life Mastery Radio Day. And there's lots of reasons for it to be a groovy day. I get to hang out with my really good friend, Jackie Bailey. Her and I come on every week and bring you a guest star, somebody that is on the cutting edge of their own becoming and wanting to share how they got there, why they're standing there, and how you can jump off that edge too. So stay tuned. We got a joyride for you today. I promise you that. We're a very good joy. It's also a good groovy day. A good groovy. Hey, Jackie, I changed it.
Good groovy.
A good groovy day. Because I make it that way. When I get up in the morning, I already decide it's going to be a groovy day, and the rest of my day pretty much turns out pretty groovy. Something might happen, something might change, but I can always just think back and turn that around, and it works. Try it. You'll like it, just like Mikey. Hi, Jackie. How are you, my friend?
Hello, I'm doing well, thank you. Yeah.
How are things at the Speak, Feed, Lead project?
Chugging right along. You know, we've got international clubs now for kids. They're showing up. Last week, we had a club meeting very internationally. We had an Australian guest, and then we had an Indian member from India. We had a couple different spots around the U.S., and it was a really fun group, and they supported each other. This is called Speak Kaboom Club.
Is it all just one club now, or do you have multiple?
There are 4 options every week. So we have the UK option, and then we have Speak-a-Boom East and Speak-a-Boom West in the US, and then we have the Oceania option. And
this all started in the room that she's sitting in right now. And
Yeah.
then it got to the point where she didn't have enough chairs for all the students showing up. And then COVID hit and things kind of got weird, but it all went online. And I guess it's been online ever since, right?
Been online ever since. And, you know, the pandemic, that was one of the advantages of it, is that we got to reach more kids, and they didn't have to just be local. So it's awesome.
And
you know,
so
growing.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say 2 of our members spoke last week on a summit. One spoke on Friday and one spoke on Saturday. And then this week I released a recording of 2 different ones on a podcast. I think it was recorded back in July. And so they talked about their stories there and and this was a business podcast, but they talked about it with the audience of entrepreneurs, and they're 11 and 12 years old. I mean, these kids have such great insight, and I find joy. I really do in helping them get on these stages and share their messages, because they're
so that's what the club's all about, right? That's what I was going to say, is the club is about teaching kids presentation skills and how to formulate that presentation to get results. Did I get it?
Yeah, yes, it is. The Speak-a-Boom Club is the entryway into all of our programs. Now we've reformatted things. So everybody comes into Speak-a-Boom, and it's a weekly club, but they have 4 options. They could attend 4 different club meetings if they wanted to every week. And we play with communication. We do a lot of improv and create scenes and stories together. We do have prepared speeches, and they get feedback on those speeches. But if the kids want to do more, they move into the Speak Tank Collaborative. And that then is a monthly group of kids that are working on programs together, or they're working on individual projects like a podcast or a community service project, or some of these kids are actually developing their own courses, and they're teaching them at their own local libraries and things like that. And then for the kids who want to do more than that, then they move into the Pro Speak and Influencer stage. That is where we really focus on crafting their keynote speeches, their TEDx talks, and getting them ready for those opportunities to speak on stages like summits and in person.
I'm looking at our guest today, and I just got to jump in here. Jan, can you imagine if you were learning those skills when you were 11, 12, 13 years old?
Oh, I'm sitting here in total envy. I wish I would have had you in my life, Jackie, at that age. And oh my gosh, that's so incredible.
She's nourishing the future leaders of America, or actually, let's just go big and say the world.
Oh yeah. I bet there's future presidents for sure in your vortex, and other leaders.
It's very cool. And this all came out of Jackie's head. It's just
it came out of her heart.
Out of her heart.
First, and the head lined up to how do we actually do this?
That's right.
And I've watched it all happen, and I am just blown away. It's it's the coolest thing I've ever seen, I think.
Yeah. Well, and Todd, I was going to mention that your grooviness might be tested here in a little while.
Woo-hoo!
Right?
Woo-hoo!
Yeah.
I've got a big test coming up. I've been diagnosed with cancer in my throat. It's going to require some chemotherapy and some radiation and about 8 weeks of discomfort. But you know what, Jack? I'm looking for the gift. There's a gift in there somewhere. And I'm digging, and some parts of it have already come to the surface, but it's just it's something I got to do, and it's something I got to get through.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm looking for the gift.
Well, I think
I'm meeting lots of cool people. I'm meeting lots of really cool people. And one of my doctors is a giant. He's almost 7 feet tall, and he's just a huge guy. And I was walking behind him the other day, and I was just looking at him. I said, "Man, you're a giant." He goes, "Yeah, not quite. I'm what did he say? 6 foot 11 and a half."
Wow.
That's big. I mean, that's 11 and a half inches bigger than me, and he was big. So it's kind of cool.
Well, I was going to say, one of the gifts that I know you already received, as it's only located in one place, right?
Just in my throat, on the back of my tongue.
Right there. It's not spread. So that's really great.
It's nowhere else, just kind of in my neck. Maybe the lymph nodes have just a teeny bit in them, but they're trying to fight it, right? My lymph glands they're trying to fight it. So I would expect that they took on a little bit, but they're gonna fix me up. They're gonna fix me up is what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
I'll come out the other side. So it's kind of cool. Thanks for asking. And I know that there's been some listeners that have reached out to me, and I appreciate that, but we're going to keep moving forward. That's what I'm going to do. And I appreciate the support, because that helps me stay in joy, like today's show. We're going on a joy ride. I'm totally excited. I want to remind our listeners that today's show page is at www.lifemasteryradio.net. You can go there. Any links that we talk about today are there. Our guest's information is there. And you can sign up for our newsletter there. Jackie creates a newsletter every week. It highlights who's been on the show, who's coming on the show, and a blog post about the most recent show. So you can stay up to date on all things Life Mastery Radio. This is the talk show that brings you great thoughts and ideas for you to use on your very own life mastery journey. So stay tuned. We've got some great info. I do want to say, too, we have a YouTube channel. I think Jackie and I have well over 300 shows about a plethora of topics that are designed just for you and your life mastery journey. So check us out. Tell a friend about it. Okay, Jackie. I think we are ready to go. Jan is your guest, so that means you get to introduce her.
I do. I'm so grateful that we got connected and had a little chat. I was like, she's got to be on the show, because
I agree. You have a good knower.
I do. And her name is Jan Hoath, and many people refer to as Jan Joy Hoath. And she's a speaker, a poet, a joy mentor to women business leaders, and she's on a mission to fulfill the vision of a joy-led world. As a leadership coach, mindfulness meditation teacher, and a former pro ski instructor, Jan offers a leading-edge blend to her work, including her signature process of the happiness prism. We're going to get to talk about that. guiding leaders to claim joy as their superpower and no matter what challenges life brings. Jan can be found embodying her joy while skiing, snowboarding, trail running, surfing, sailing, learning banjo, meditating with moose, speaking at leadership summits, yoga festivals, facilitating mindful retreats, guiding transformational joy journeys, and at home in her log cabin with her beloved family of 2 kids, her Australian husband, and her Bernese mountain dog, and a fiercely independent cat. Plus, she was telling us about all the wildlife that lives around her. And she's offering, look in our blog after the show because she's offering a free meditation for you. So make sure that you tune into the blog to get that after the show. But I am delighted to welcome Jan Hoath. Welcome, Jan. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
It's the Joy Queen.
Yes.
I'm invisible.
Now, have you always had that title? Was that something that people said about you early on in your life, or what?
Well, yeah, and I just want to say I'm super honored to be here, and I'm even honored to also, to hear your story, Todd, like of what you're currently facing, because I think I have some loving perspective and joyful perspective that will support you also. And to answer your question, Jackie, yes and no. I did obviously, actually, we have friends that joke that I came out teeth first, that I was born with a big smile. And I was definitely a joyful child until I wasn't, until I actually found myself in a deep, dark depression as a teenager. The real quick backstory was I was a swimmer. I was competitive. I wanted to be like my big sister who went to college on a scholarship. And I dislocated my shoulder, had to have reconstructive surgery, and was not able to come back to swimming. And I thought, I had a long recovery, and the doctors are like, yeah, leg sports. So you can kind of hear the seed of how skiing started to get in the background. However, in the moment, my identity construct was that of swimming, and I lost myself as a teenager and didn't know which end was up, was on antidepressants. My family didn't know what to do with me. They were distraught as to how to help me. And yet, even in this dark moment, I had a favorite, actually German teacher, and it wasn't even the regular teacher. And this is kind of fun because before we went live, we all realized we all took German in high school.
Yeah.
So it was a substitute teacher though. So I'm in my sling, I'm still recovering with my shoulder surgery. And she says, Jan, come here. And she pulls me into the back room and she shows me this big poster and she goes, I just have this hunch. You ought to apply for this scholarship to be an exchange student in Germany. And in that moment, I was like, what? This is crazy. And then a light bulb went off in my head and my heart that said, you mean I get to leave this, identity of, depression and non-swimmer, but I don't know who I am, this town, this country, and go to another country where I have new people, new opportunities, new everything. And I started to understand even at that ripe young age, and I know you deal with a lot of really bright young people yourself, Jackie, but there was something in me that knew and understood this is the most profound thing I can do. And with that light bulb in my heart and in my mind, it was like, oh, this is something joyful. Like this brings me so much joy just to consider it. So I poured myself into the application, and it was a lot of, questions that I had to answer, and I had to go to a live interview and all these things. And it was like, this just feels really cool. But even just the process of filling out the application, of showing up to the interview was already helping me start to identify, what do I care about? Right. Like, I want to go to something new. I want to be in a new place. I want something different. Well, I did end up getting the scholarship. Yay. And yet I was still on those antidepressants, which I hated, my happy pills. And, my parents and I had a big heart to heart, and they're like, they don't know that you're on antidepressants. There's no way, especially this was in the 90s, it was before internet. Like it was very minimal connection. We can't send you overseas if they find out you're on antidepressants. And I literally made the decision I don't need these antidepressants.
Yep.
And look,
Isn't that
I'm
amazing?
not a clinical specialist here. I'm not a doctor. And yet I have never required antidepressants since. It was the fact, though, that I had that contrast, that I had a joyful future to live into, that helped me move out of the dark space of the depression of, I don't know who I am and I'm questioning this life. Because to be very honest, I was in a very, very, very dark space, like definitely asking myself, why stay here? And positioned and transitioned into this beautiful opportunity in a foreign country, which I don't know about you guys, high school German, while it was kind of cool, it didn't really click. So I literally went over there and I was like, I had times where people were like, hey, and they would invite me to something. And I was like, yeah, sure. I had no idea what I was saying yes to. Like, I literally remember showing up at the bus stop that I was told to show up at. And I was in like casual jeans or whatever. And they're like, oh, we're going to be rowing across the harbor. I went rowing across the Kiel Harbor because I was in northern Germany at the time. And yet that year was so magical for me because I had a complete different experience, new people, new way of looking at things, different family dynamics. And while it was tough learning the language, there was just something about being in that space and being willing to give it all a go that I woke up to a joy future. And that's where time and again, that this idea that my mission being, the vision of a joy-led world, my joy has led me through challenging circumstances. So not only have I had deep, dark depression, we also had a cancer scare with my son. And this is where I wanted to, offer some hope to you, Todd, today, and anyone else listening, that at 6 weeks old,
Wow.
I'm changing his onesie. And then a few hours later, I'm in the cancer wing of the children's hospital and they're saying it might be cancer. He's a life-threatening condition. And it's like, how does this happen?
Right.
And at this point, I kind of skipped over a lot of my life story, but at this point in this particular story that I'm called to share, I was already doing life coaching. And I thought, change your thoughts, change your experience. And I was like, I can't change my thoughts I can't think my way out of this.
Right.
And that's really when I tuned into spirit, tuned into, really spiritual awakening and understanding of like surrender to something more. And yet, I'm the breastfeeding mom. I have a 2-year-old at home with my husband. He's, got to take care of her. Only one of us can stay in the hospital. And I go to bed and the next morning I realize I did not plan for an overnight. I barely have a change of clothes, let alone anything to eat. And I look at the nurse says I can order off the menu because I'm, his mom. And I look down on the menu and I see that I can order Fruit Loops. And the first thought is like, what? I can't order Fruit Loops, the sensible thought. That's nourishing for myself and my child. But then I had already tapped into spirit and surrendered, right? Like the night before, and came into this louder voice that said, you don't need nourishment for your body. You need nourishment for your soul, for your joy. And I ordered the Fruit Loops. That even in this horrifying moment and uncertainty and all the things, I ordered Fruit Loops. And for those 10 minutes, as the colors swirled around the bowl and so not natural and all the sugar and all the things and whatever, I was in my joy, even in that very terrifying time. But the cool thing was, my son's in the crib next to me, even with all of the cords. That's like a horrible vision to see a baby with, things plugged into them. And he's giggling because he's picking up on my energy and my joy. And so in this moment, once again, the joy lifted my spirits. And while, look, I didn't know how we were going to get out of this. And yet I'm tuned into this steadfast intention that we get out of this somehow. I don't know how, but you know what? I'm going to do my best. I'm going to show up in my joy and find my way through. And the thing about the joy in this space too, even like when I was a teenager in this particular space and every space, honestly, every time I've led with joy, I see things differently. I have a different perspective, and we all do. Because the joy that I'm talking about is not the happy, happy, bouncing off the wall joy. Sometimes it is. But I'm talking about the spiritual joy of something more beautiful and
It's an
magical.
energy level, right, Jan? It's a total energy level, and it's how you're showing up. And just like you said, it's infectious, right? So other people that you are present with pick up on it, and it just seems to amplify and begin to grow.
Absolutely. Well, and it's truthfully in spiritual psychology, it's a level of consciousness almost to enlightenment. So that is where it's way more, it does amplify, and it is felt by others. And we are more connected, intuitive, attractive to ideas, people, places, and things that serve us, and consequently repellent to people, places, and things that don't serve us. But that's also that state of mind to be in my joy helped me face all of the challenging decisions I had to face
Right.
with his medical condition.
That high energy then equates to a healing process, right? Or a higher level of healing.
Yes.
That needs to occur.
And also, I mean, I'd never in my life before that asked for prayers. I'd never before in my life really understood that energetic space of really inviting everyone into this intention and possibility that this works out okay. And even what was really magical is the nurses would come sit with me. They're like, what are you doing? You're different. I mean, I'm on this hospital wing where there's so many very, very heartbreaking stories of children of all sorts of, not just cancer, it was cancer, oncology and hematology. So blood disorders and everything. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is a horrifying situation, not only isolated for us, but also all the other families. I knew that I had to like shine that light that you were talking about, that contagious energy of joy, like to provide hope, like not just for me, but even the doctors coming in telling me all the grave news of, we don't know, but here's the problem. And even like working with them to say, okay, what's the next step? We're going to get out of this, like enrolling them all into the conversation of, this is going to work out. I just don't know how. And we ultimately experienced 12 challenging days like that, in which, no, I did not eat Fruit Loops every day. But what I like to affectionately call, like, and I will say this is my intended TED Talk, one of them, it will be on the Fruit Loop moment. And what it is about.
I'm laughing because I love Fruit Loops too, and to name a speech the Fruit Loop moment, I mean that's the epitome of a speech title.
And joy.
And
for those Fruit Loop moments. And so like that's even a takeaway already that I have for all of our listeners today is the Fruit Loop moment wasn't just eating Fruit Loops. It was a spontaneous opportunity to evoke joy. It was not manufactured. And that's what I'm also a proponent of. Like, we can't manufacture this type of energy that I'm talking about. We can just be available to it and then follow through. Right? That's where this, story continues and has continued in multiple other areas of my life, facing debt. We had also a family tragedy where we weren't so fortunate, but in this case, to fast forward, my son never actually got a diagnosis of cancer. We ended up just getting kind of an unofficial medical miracle diagnosis.
Right.
We're going to have to follow him till he was 18 years old. And on his 1-year birthday, they said, I don't understand, and we don't need to see you again. This child is a miracle. And so
that rocks. That's really cool.
He's a thriving 11-year-old boy. And just like from a tactile basis, he had part of his bone was missing in his arm. It wasn't even broken. That was the weird thing. but his arm basically regrew, like the bone in his.
Wow.
And so it was there. And I guess just to share, and I know you're a TED expert here, Jackie, but I'll have the image. I have the image of the side by side of the before and after of this bone that doesn't make sense, and then this bone completely healed a year later. And so it really is this space. And look, I know the TED people have told me too, like I have to be mindful that not to give medical advice, but I'm here to offer hope and encouragement, and to you, Todd, and again, everyone who's listening, that it doesn't have to be cancer, whatever challenging circumstance that you're facing, like to provide hope here, that as you can look for the Fruit Loop moments along the way, the spontaneous sparks of joy that fill you up and get you in that state of thinking that it's like, oh, well, we can have some play in this moment. Oh, well, we can see something different here. Oh, and we can actually ask a different question maybe that we hadn't considered. And in that energy, that's when you're attracting, the doctor support team and the family friends who show up with a, delicious hot meal and whatever else that you need. It's a phenomenal phenomenon that never ceases to blow my mind.
Oh, I'm a witness to it, because just hanging around with you two this morning, my throat already feels better.
Yay.
And I'm going to buy a box of Fruit Loops and put it on my mantle, and then I can just look up and have a Fruit Loop moment at any time I want.
There you go. And you know what? There might be a time when this actually sound good to you. Maybe you snack on them a little bit. Who knows?
Right.
Well, Jan, what I really like about what you shared this morning is that there's probably a lot of people like me who struggle with the idea that I could just change my thoughts and just change my life, right? And not that I disbelieve that, but sometimes it's really hard to actually see the results of even trying that. But what I like about your story is that the universe was providing something that was going to give you joy. And so it doesn't always have to be, I got to change my thoughts. It's that we look for the joy opportunities around us and recognize that as that's what's being offered.
Yes.
Right. And that is a way to take that and change our energy, change what we're thinking, change our outlook and our perspective on things. And that's the important lesson for me, is it doesn't always have to just come from me, but there are things all around me that I just need to recognize as that joy, that blessing.
I used to encompass that in my mind by saying, keep your head up, tail out from between your legs, and just like a puppy dog looking for that next thing to play with, right?
Yeah.
That's the way that works.
And Jackie, I love that you brought that up that way, because that's exactly what that hospital experience was for me. Because up until then, it was like, yeah, I'm just gonna, it was all here. And that surrender that I experienced in the hospital to give way to the Fruit Loop moment was dropping into my heart, and then even lower, because I don't know if you've studied the three mind theory, but our gut instinct is no joke. Like that's where our real true knowing is. And that's where, yes, I'm not talking about thinking, a positive affirmation. I'm not talking about just creating a new, better thinking thought belief because it sounds yummy and, it works for me. Like, even that's the thing, like Fruit Loops may not work for you. So it really is allowing, it's letting yourself be available to, yes, the universe provides, but being available to just look for the Fruit Loop moments. Like that's my takeaway for the, TED piece. But the takeaway here for everyone too is that loving reminder that I believe joy is a divine gift that we weren't necessarily taught to receive throughout life. So many of us are the, joy and play is when the work is done. And I'm here to say it's actually before, during, and when the work is done.
Always. It's a mindset, and it's an energy level. And yeah, it's the way you show up in the world, and the belief that there's a gift. Where is it? I'm looking for it, and you might not even see it when it comes, but it'll hit you later.
And I find so many times it has to come in sideways to wake us up. It has to come in such a surprising manner that we go, well, I definitely did not make that up in my, to-do list today. Like,
Yeah.
that is so spirit, the divine, whatever, universe talking to me saying, hey, there's a better way. Come on, come play. Because I also believe fundamentally, like we are all here to really enjoy this life. And we get dealt these interesting circumstances that can happen for us, as just like even you said opening up, Todd, like there's a gift and a blessing in your cancer diagnosis. And I know that the clients that I've worked with too, like I just coached a beautiful client through divorce, and her divorce story is incredible. Like she shares with me all the time, I can't believe how we moved through the grieving process and came to a place of such mutual empowered agreement between herself now and her now former husband. And they're like best friends now. And they literally
High vibration.
signed the papers and then went on a vacation together. Like that is not what the typical thinking would go. But
Right.
this is where when we allow ourselves to be available to, and I want to also stress, we gave her space. I guided her through healthy processing of all the not joy emotions. We don't just isolate the joy.
Yeah.
We give way to the whole colors. That's why I'm always surrounded by rainbows and my process of the happiness prism, because we honor the whole colors. We honor the full spectrum. We need to. It's part of the experience, and it's part of what informs us. What doesn't feel good, the cancer diagnosis, to what does feel good, the miracle healing.
Yeah.
But we are human, right, Jan? We are human, and we're gonna get down. We're gonna get
Dirty
a little out of sync and all kind of muddy. Now, my big question for you is are you able to turn that around, say, instantly, or does it take a process of constant reiterating and reevaluating your state of mind?
Great question. And it depends.
Yeah.
There are times where I can process very quickly and spin it and move on. And then there's times that I need to take a little bit more time.
And be with it, right? You got to be with it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and here's the thing that I also believe, or I know from spiritual psychology that they've scientifically proven, David Hawkins' work, that there is a finite to the darkness, if you will, the not joy emotions. There's a finite when you know how to be with it, process it, and empty out. It only becomes a cycle if we pick it back up, And, that's a lot of what I do with my clients is, I support them in not perpetuating that. But we have to address it, yes, and feel it, yes. And the other piece that I believe also is that as we allow ourselves to really go there, and I have this concept called the deep end of joy. And it's the idea of, like, if you think about a pool, you wouldn't want to dive into the shallow end of the pool. You want to be able to,
unless you want a headache.
Yeah, unless you want a headache. But you want to know, how deep that deep end is so that we can go to the high dive of joy. And every time we have this new life circumstance that happens for us, the cancer, the divorce, the debt, the disease, the death of a loved one, that we have the opportunity, the blessing to go and touch bottom, not to dwell there. We don't have to stay there. But by doing that, we actually expand our capacity to go higher into our joy.
That's a great analogy. I really like that. That's pretty cool.
Well, and that goes back to, or refers back anyway, to your first story about not being able to swim any longer. And you really went into that opposite, to that deep end of the pool, metaphorically feeling down, feeling like this is what I was born to do. I want to be a swimmer, and now I can't be a swimmer. And your identity was so wrapped around that you could not see beyond that, based on probably a lack of life experience at such a young age. But without that, you would not have had the opportunity, most likely, to go to Germany, or you wouldn't have taken the opportunity because you would have been on the swim team and you would have been competing and you would have had to, be there for your team and that kind of thing. And so there's the gift too, even though you went to a really dark place, according to your description of it, there was an opportunity there. And someone was helping you to find that opportunity, even though you weren't able to. And I don't want to get into medical stuff about depression, but it sounds to me like those antidepressants probably were not what you needed.
As it is, I think,
because you were not clinically depressed. It was a mindset that you had fallen into. You were spending too much time on the bottom of that pool, right? And you weren't allowing yourself to come up for a new breath of air and see and look around at what really is there and possible for you. I don't know that pills could have really been the key to that, but I think that's really important too for us to understand, is that, again, sometimes the dark times come because there's a new light that's going to dawn that we need to be in the right place to see, right? Because if we're always living in the light, sometimes it's hard to see the bright that's right there. We have to go into a darker place to be able to see that again. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It's just like the stars at night. They're always there.
Right.
The stars are always there, but it's only on a really dark night that we really see them. And so that's absolutely it. And I know you shared in my bio, like, I'm a poet, and I have a book in an editorial phase, a poetry book called The Deep End of Joy: Poems, Prayers, and Perspective.
Wow. Because I was going to ask you at the end of the show, where's the book?
I know. Well, that's just one of the many, but that was, it's still in process, but it's close. But the opening poem is The Deep End of Joy. And it's all about the emotional experience, down, going down, wonder when I'm going to hit the ground.
Did you share that? Would you be willing to share that or not? You want to wait for the book to come out?
It's a pretty long poem. So
okay.
I think.
Well, when that book hits the streets, you better come back on Life Mastery Radio, Sunshine, because we want to promote it and we want to talk to you again about that whole process.
That would be amazing. Thank you so much. Because what happened is, and why it's kind of paused from running to publishing, is working with my mentors around it. It's almost to 52 poems, in which case it could be a poem a week. And then my mentor encouraged me to add journal prompts. So it could be like a whole poetic journey throughout the year. So I'm like, okay, I'll take on the challenge, because it's almost to 52 poems. So I just have to start to kind of gather. And my soul speaks to me in poetry. So that's how these poems came through. They're medicine, and I do offer them as medicine to my clients, and in different
I've really liked those books. Alan Cohen wrote one. I think it was 365 Days of a Spiritual Awakening or something, and Deepak Chopra has written one, and those books are really cool because you can always find the date, or you can just open it up and get an inspirational reading, or you can practice. If it's 52, then you can practice it for an entire week and just stay focused on it. So there's a multitude of avenues those kinds of books would give a person and make a difference in a person's life. I think there's a huge appeal to that.
Oh, well, thanks for that feedback. Because my vision with it was also to be like an oracle, card deck type thing, and eventually have a card deck with it too. But at the very least, let it be pocket size. It fits in your pocket, or in your on your dash in your car or in your purse.
Or a quick read, Jan. A quick read. So most people have Kindle and other avenues of just reading, and it is a busy world, and we just kind of need that quick jolt, and we only have time to just maybe read for 5 or 6 minutes, and we can get a concept and an idea and give that big gray matter between our ears some brain food to stew on for a couple of days.
Right. And really activate the heart, because that's what these poems come from. So that, yes, give the brain something to process, but feel the heart just open up, because
there's a connection there. I don't know if you're familiar with heart math, but there is a definite connection between those two. And if you get them in tune,
power.
You're unstoppable.
Power. Yeah.
Really awesome. So tell us about your happiness prism. You mentioned the oracle, so I think that might be a good segue into what is the happiness prism. And I know that you've got some crystals and geodes around you. You live in, do you mind if we tell people where you live?
Not, of course. Yes. Bring it
So
The
I,
on.
happiest place on earth. It's the joyfulest place on earth.
yeah, Jan is in the beautiful area of Jackson Hole, Wyoming,
Woohoo!
and living among wildlife, and sounds like really close to the Snake River if you're not right on it, and
Right on it.
very idyllic place. So you've got the joy of nature all around you in 4 seasons of the year. So tell us a little bit about the happiness prism. What is that as a process?
Yes. Well, and essentially the happiness prism is the process that I essentially created out of all of my personal challenges of depression. And at one point we were in some 7-figure debt. And also we had the tragedy of losing my mother-in-law in a very dramatic and traumatic
Mm,
manner. And all of these experiences had me wake up to 3 core elements that we require to be harmonized and optimized to be in our joy. And the idea, and I'll share what the elements are in a moment, but the idea is it's like a pyramid prism triangle. And the idea that is, we are all beings of light. And when we are lit up and we are optimized in this framework, that's when we can radiate in our most potent manner the rainbows that we're here to bring in the world. It's the ripple effect that we can have when we're in that, joy power that we can bring. And so between all of these different experiences, and I kind of backed in and it was a divine download like the poems are, was this idea of that we need to play. That's essentially what Fruit Loops was. That's also what going to Germany was. That was a playful future. And then we also require peace, to pause, to breathe, to tune in, to slow down, and I have a whole programs built around each sides of the prism. But both of you just kind of nodded like, yep, we need peace.
you bet.
Well, it's a
And
reset, right? Maybe we
it,
should highlight. It's
it's
just it's a
yeah,
way to reset and regroup and maybe give some thoughts, some meditation, and look for those, not look for, listen for those answers of what to do next, where to go, how to do
absolutely. Yeah, it's like the clutch, right? Shifting gears,
it.
that pause.
Mm,
And then the last side, and it's intentionally in this order. The last side of the prism is progress.
mm,
Because and to go back and clarify, play I define as joy in motion, no other agenda. Peace, prayer in motion, and this is not religious. It's that tuning into that inner whisper, like Todd was saying. And then progress, purpose in motion.
mm,
And we're not talking just your career. We're talking that purpose of, it might be getting up and calling your mom, or getting up and taking a shower. Sometimes purpose or progress is that simple. And at the same time, we're also here not to just play and be in peace. I essentially found that anytime I was missing one side of the prism, it collapses
mm.
and we can't radiate out in an optimal, maximized joy. And we feel unfulfilled.
So wait, let's review those. That's the 4 P's.
3.
3, play.
Oh, I picked up on play, prayer, progress, and pause.
So play, peace,
Ah,
and which is known as or defined as prayer in motion.
Mm-hmm.
And then progress is purpose in motion, that we're here to move forward and grow and do something in this life, and for many of us, it really is like that soul mission of doing something more in this life. And it doesn't have to be grandiose. I want to be very clear. Obviously I'm called to big stages and spaces and doing things, but it doesn't have to be something, it's whatever is personal to you that lights you up, that when you take that next step, it feels really great. Because that side of the prism actually came when we lost my mother-in-law, who I'm
You
married
got to
to.
tell that story. That
Yeah,
is,
I really do, because that's
it's
when the birth of
so,
my
I mean,
kid.
that's a cage rattler. So here we are. Jackie hasn't heard it. Just give us the brief version, but Jackie, you're not going to
Brief
believe this.
version. Yeah. Yeah. And actually, this was the catalyst to me starting my business. This was the
Oh,
catalyst to me starting to share my story, get on stages, coach people, mentor, and build out the programs that I've now built. So I'm married to an Australian, and my in-laws came over for Thanksgiving. So they got to come and experience Thanksgiving, because up until then, my husband had spent a couple of Thanksgivings with us, and he just thought it was so cool because it's an American holiday that was, based on food, and we just, gather and hang out, and he just thought it was amazing. And our particular tradition was, with my folks in the Florida Keys, turkey under the tiki.
Oh, nice.
So we had his folks over, and his parents had just gone into retirement, and they were so excited, and they had just started their trip with us for Thanksgiving. And we had this beautiful adventure planned. All of us, we're going to take them to New York, because that's such a big thing for the Australians, or anyone who's not American. Well,
Yeah.
Americans too, but just it's a big deal to go to New York. And then and at the time we were actually living in Aspen. And so we were going to do this beautiful thing. And so we had the Thanksgiving holiday, and my mother-in-law and father-in-law just thought it was so special to have all of us gathered. And then the Friday afterwards, they wanted to go for a bike ride. And I remember vividly them leaving with my parents' bikes, and we only had 2 bikes, and I could feel a pull in my heart. I really want to go with them. Well, they only had the 2 bikes, and we wanted to give them space to enjoy a little bit. Well, if you happen to know the Florida Keys, there's one main road. And about an hour later, we got the horrible phone call that you need to come immediately. And being Australian, they went to cross the road, and she looked the wrong way. And it was, thankful that it was instant. And there was so much regret wrapped up in this experience. I was still young, and this was back in 2007, and just unaware, and realizing, like, I so regretted that I didn't honor that pull to go with them. And then, so much regret with all of my family of, I mean, I even went down to, like, if we hadn't gotten together and gotten married, you wouldn't, they wouldn't have even been here.
right.
Like,
All
Yeah.
the blame.
my
Yeah.
husband felt guilty, and then my parents felt guilty, and then there was just so much guilt. And then there's this retirement life that they never got to live together.
Yeah.
And that's when, sitting in that, and the drama was, it stopped traffic on that road for hours on a holiday weekend. And so it was like, it really drove in this horrifying awareness of, we don't know when we're done.
Right.
And that's where, in my logo, it says no regrets life, because that's when it was like, oh my gosh, I've got to live now. Like, the most loving thing that I can do to honor her legacy actually is start my business, get out here, speak here with you all, even though this was 16 years ago now. It's like, I know every time I speak, I'm honoring her legacy. Because in her passing too, what was incredible was word spread around the world. And there were, news cameras that wanted to come visit us. We didn't want to, but she was all over the news in Australia of this American woman who was, killed, and all these people just outpouring of love for her, that she was such a bright light, and that she was so caring. And even her husband told us that in hindsight, she had her own experiences of depression. She didn't realize how much she impacted people, but she had a magical way with people. And so, like, that's when the idea of progress came. It's like, I got to live on purpose. And that's when I started my business. I realized, what am I doing? I want to start this experience and speaking and coaching and all these things. I'm not doing it. And so that's where, like, the undercore of the joy-led life is also building a no regrets life, so that we're showing up, making the most of it, making sure everyone knows that, they're amazing and loved and appreciated, and that, we don't know, and it might be cancer, and it might be a car crash, and it might be whatever it is. What are we doing today to live to the fullest, to be,
Exactly.
the best version of ourselves, to face all of the fears and all the discomfort and all the, not joys, to be able to grow and move through it, to realize, wow, that sun is still shining even on a really cloudy day.
Yeah. Wow. That is very tragic. I actually had the opposite happen to a friend of mine who was on her honeymoon in Australia and did something very similar. She looked the wrong way. She and her new husband were in a car. They looked the wrong way. They were both killed instantly. So it's a story I've heard before, and it's so tragic. But I could see how all of those emotions start coming to you: the blame, the guilt, the I should have's, or why didn't I's, and it's really easy to fall into that trap. But also, you look at that person's life and you realize that person brought me joy. She brought a lot of other people joy. And there's lots of reasons to feel joyous for what can happen next, even though we can't see through the clouds, just, in the moment. But I appreciate you sharing that story.
Yeah, it's a tough story, but just to reiterate that everything happens for a reason, and every person I've met and talked to, and every door handle I've grabbed, every stoplight I've stopped at, have led me and brought me to where I am at today. And you think about that in a big perspective, with all the bad wars and the people that have left this existence, but that all stacks up and gives us the reality that we're in.
It does. And that is where I can say, with all of the tools that I've built and wonderful mentors I've had and beautiful conversations like this, I am at an awareness of, like, I'm thankful for all of it, for all of the tears and the heartache and the broken bones. We didn't get into all that. But just to be where I'm at now, all of it's part of me. And that's where I talk about the happiness prism in simplest form is the pyramid, but the truth is this is really who we are.
That's a complicated structure.
We're complex, we're dynamic, we all have edges, we all have shadows, but yet it's all of that helps us each be these brilliant prisms that we are.
Yeah.
And then taking it on another level, out into like community in the world, like if you think about it, like everyone listening is a different side to this. Right. That when we're all lit up, we get to be like one giant universal prism.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We all reflect light and color and the same way. And even when our life is more complex, we just have opportunity to reflect more light and more color, right? Because it comes from all different angles. So the more complexity, the more blessings as well. You just have to look at it that way.
Very cool. Oh my goodness, ladies, we only have about 5 minutes left. Gosh, where'd all the time go? So Jan, how can people connect with you? What's on your website? Where do they find more? I mean, just watching this show, I have this insatiable desire to stalk you and investigate you even more. So how can they do it?
Oh my goodness. Well, my website's janhoath.com. I mean, I'm still building out some of the assets on there, but for now, there is that link to the meditation that Jackie mentioned earlier. And just to share that meditation is a very special meditation that I channeled for myself when I was in the middle of some really super sucky circumstances. It is called
sign up for our newsletter and you will get that meditation link. We're not going to put it on the website, right, Jack? It's only going to be in the newsletter. Maybe we'll put it.
I think it's in the newsletter that went out for the potential show this week, but it will also be in the blog. It'll be in the blog, so they can have it in the blog. Yeah.
Yes. So we'll make sure.
Wait. That's at www.lifemasteryradio.com. Go and check it out. Okay.
Yeah. Well, so that is one way for for listeners to tune into more and to receive some immediate relief if you happen to be having one of those shitty days. Because it's definitely cheeky, but there's also a process within there on how to move that energy that we were talking about before. But I can also be found on Instagram, Facebook, and I'm slowly building out my YouTube page. But those are good places to start, because I do have some exciting programs coming up that are opportunities to come play and really tune into your joy-filled leadership, because that's what I'm about. Is I know that everyone here cares about your own joy, absolutely, but you also care about the impact that you are having. And no better way, and really the only way, is to amplify your own joy to have that bigger impact and influence.
Especially in little ones, little ones that are just forming. I mean, they are the future, right? It's just what Jackie does. I just had this quick thought that even though those days come, you can always create the vision of flushing them. Right?
Flushing them?
Well, a shitty day, you can just flush it away.
That's right.
Watch it down the road. Watch it swirl.
Right.
I don't know why that hit me. It just did when you were saying that. I was like, yeah, but you can always flush it away.
Sounds great. That's right. And you don't have to hold on to it. You don't want to hold on to it, right? That's another part of it.
Hold on to it. And even when it's swirling like that, even you can watch the swirl and then watch it go down. Todd, I think you're going to be doing that with your cancer. Watch it swirl and watch it go down.
Yeah, I already told you I got to meet a giant. I mean, that was just, I've never, so I'm 6 foot and I've always been the tallest person, or at least that high. I have never looked up at somebody like that before. Not that I know of in my entire life.
Yeah.
So that was quite the experience, and I'm still reeling with that today.
Well, so
I can't wait to meet him again.
It's a sign that he's going to be that power you need to heal this in you. So maybe that's something that you need to look at as far as a metaphorical.
That's pretty cool. The guy is just, and I looked down at his feet, and I've always been known for big feet. I wear a size 13. I've never seen feet that big before. This guy was truly a giant. I'm telling you, he's a giant. Pretty cool. Okay, Jan, is there any last minute thoughts? Is there something that we didn't cover? Is there something that just got to bubble up and get out of you before we close the show?
Well, I just really want to encourage everyone to look for the Fruit Loop moments. Look for those little sparks of joy, whether it's the giant or whether it's Fruit Loops or whether it's something else. But there's a twinkle that's there, and look for it, and then notice the burst of energy that comes with it, because it really is everywhere. It's just a matter of seeing that twinkle. So I just wanted to encourage everyone to look for the Fruit Loop moments, and let me know how it goes. Reach out to me. Tell me about your Fruit Loop moment.
There's a great teaching story that I'm reminded of, and Jackie's probably heard that, but I'm just going to share it with everybody anyway. A father and daughter were walking through a stable, and they opened up a door, and there was just this room full of poop, and the little girl looks at it and she just jumps in and starts digging, and her dad is just aghast. Oh my gosh, what are you doing? And she goes, Dad, with all this poop in here, there's got to be a pony somewhere. It's a great teaching story, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Jan, I want to thank you so much for showing up as you today, and for pushing yourself to your own edge of becoming, and then guiding others to their edge so that they can make the choice to just jump off to joy, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. It's awesome. And we want to hear about that book when that book comes out. So namaste, my friend, and thank you so much for showing up as you today.
Yeah. Thank you, Jan.
Thank you both.
That's about all we have time for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. My biggest hope is you'll tell a friend about the show. We are at www.lifemasteryradio.net. We have a YouTube channel, Life Mastery Radio with Todd and Jackie. Tell a friend, enjoy our stuff, our content. I guarantee you, we provide tools to help you on your very own life mastery journey. Lastly, please, please, please make it a great day, because it is all about choice. Bye-bye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to Life Mastery Radio. Join Todd Allen and Jackie Bailey and their guests of leading authors, speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific. Learn to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery through stories and messages to support your well-being and most evocative dreams. Visit their website, www.lifemasteryradio.com. Join their mailing list and be notified about upcoming guests. That's lifemasteryradio.com.